What's up guys, Jay's 2 Cents here, and I'm at Microcenter here in Tustin. Recently we did a video where we kind of talked about how we pick our parts and some of the logic and stuff when we, make sure things are compatible and staying within our budget. And Microcenter said, hey, why don't you come down to the store, kind of take a shot at building a PC here in our store, because they do have PC build services here. We talked about that before. But we're gonna do a $2,000 budget, and I wanted a little bit of a challenge. I wanna see how close I can get to that budget without going over, without using a calculator and doing it all in my head, because I forgot my phone at home, so I don't have a calculator. So I have to do it all in my head. But if I go over, I lose, and if I go too far under, well then I just suck. So let's see if I can do it. So our budget for this is gonna be about $2,000, which is a pretty nice PC. So clearly we wanna shop for like 1650, maybe 1650 Super. So if we stick to the whole 30 to 40% of our budget, that means we could be looking at around $700 or so for a graphics card, which is pretty insane. So my goal here is clearly gonna be gaming PC. The nice thing about Microcenter is prices here are extremely competitive. They are pretty much the same as online, if not better than a lot of online deals when you look at other vendors, because there's bundle deals with almost everything. It's like, if you buy a CPU and a motherboard here, there's a bundle deal. And if you go with like a Samsung SSD, there's another bundle they'll put on top of that. So I think that's what's gonna make this hard, where I could probably get close to the $2,000 in my head by looking at the sticker prices. But then when you start knocking off like $100 worth of bundles, there's a little bit of performance and stuff left on the table there. See, this is where it starts to get tough, right? 5700 XT is close to the 2070 Super before overclocked. But once you overclock an NVIDIA card, you do get a bit more performance out of that. The Red Devil though for $439, or you just get a 5700 and flash the BIOS like we did. But you guys haven't seen that yet. So I was thinking about going with this Asus Dual right here. So that's a 2080 Super, it's $699, so it's basically a retail card. It's not gonna have as good of a cooler as say the Strix or the Gaming Trio. We'll go with the XC, the EVGA XC. I am an EVGA fanboy, there's no hiding that. So what was your name again?
Malachi.
Malachi. So Malachi is gonna be helping us out here. If you guys come to Microcenter store, make sure to ask for Malachi. He's the one putting up with me today. Now the two hardest parts to pick in any budget obviously is gonna be your CPU platform and your GPU. Now we have Ryzen right here, and we've got Intel over here. Even with a $2,000 budget, Intel is pretty expensive. So you've got $469 here in store price for the 9900K, which is still the king when it comes to FPS with gaming. But I don't like to just one-trick pony my systems. This is one where I feel like why not take advantage of extra cores if available with Ryzen and be able to do things like live streaming and such without taking as much of a hit. Sure, we take a little bit of a performance hit, but because we're not going with the 2080 Ti where we might notice some of those lost frames, you're gonna still lose some even with the 2080 Super, but I think it's gonna be negligible, and when a blind taste test happens, you wouldn't know how much FPS you lost or even notice you lost any. So for the same price, we can get a 3900X, which is a 12-core, 24-thread CPU. Or we could even save a little bit of money and drop down to a 3800X, which is an 8-core, 16-thread, which only a couple years ago, you'd need an Intel Extreme platform to get that kind of core count. And you'd save $120 doing that. I'm kind of leaning towards the 3800X. So let's grab one of those. And to get the most robust platform possible, we're gonna have to go with a an X570 motherboard. So Malachi asked how I feel about the UD series from Gigabyte. Now I've used the UD stuff a lot in the past. In fact, if you go back to my really old content, I did several build guides with FX when that was still the newest processor from AMD, and we always recommended like the UD3 or the UD4 because of its build quality to performance value. The power delivery on this is probably gonna be fine for the power draw of that chip, but I'm considering going potentially to the X570 AORS Elite Wi-Fi, or even up here to the Pro, because if you're doing overclocking and stuff, I personally would get the best motherboard you can in terms of build quality, just for the sake of capacitor quality and VRM quality. And this might be the next logical step up. It's $50 more. There is a bundle. So I could even get the Pro and save a few bucks on the motherboard because I'm bundling it with the CPU. But I want to see what the AORS is like. If you're not aware, AORS is the top tier brand within Gigabyte. So it's produced by Gigabyte, owned by Gigabyte, but it's like their better brand. So I decided I'm gonna go with the Elite, which is the 189, so 169 because of the $20 bundle deal with the CPU. We started talking about, with Malachi right here, about storage throughput. Even though it is NVMe PCIe Gen 4, You know, he was talking about there are speed differences to be seen between like the lower end Gen 4 SSDs versus like the Samsung Pros and stuff like that. For a gaming machine like this, that's not really going to be my forethought in terms of where I'm going to spend money, because the price of even a 1 terabyte NVMe Gen 4 drive is too much for even a $2,000 budget. It's one of those things where for a gaming rig, Gen 3 drives and their price reduction because of Gen 4 are where we're going to be spending our money on this. But this gives us forward compatibility. If we want to expand later to a faster Gen 4 drive, we can. So that's one of the benefits too with going AMD right now. It's the only platform that has Gen 4, and storage is the only reason I would consider it, not graphics cards. Graphics cards today, and even in the next few years, I still do not believe are going to come close to saturating that bus, because it's the same thing we all talked about with PCIe Gen 2 when it came out. And then when PCIe Gen 3 came out, everyone talks about the new graphics card to be bottlenecked. No, they're not. It looks like 16 gigs like we looked at before is gonna cost us starting at 62 bucks. Well, for 99 bucks, we got a Trident Z Neo, 16 gigabyte, 3600.
Yeah, that's only latency 18. So the one just to the right of it.
The 16?
Yeah, $9 more.
Oh, for $9 more, you got the timing's twice as, well, yeah, from 18 to a 16. That's one of the differences too, though. As faster RAM gets, the timings get a little looser. So how much it's going to matter with this platform, I really don't know. I've never actually tested that. So one thing you can do too, if you're new and you're like, wait, I want to make sure I don't forget anything, build your system. Okay, we got motherboard, we got CPU, we got RAM, we got graphics card. All right, we need a power supply, we need storage, case, and probably aftermarket cooling, because we have budget for that. So let's go find power supply. One of the things with power supplies, unfortunately, is with the whole tariff thing, it was a part that legitimately you can track a price increase. Power supplies have gotten more expensive over the last year or so. So EVGA has kind of gone through a lot of different versions. Like you've got the GQ, you've got the G+, you've got the BQ. Usually it's, the letter is the rating, right? G for gold, B for bronze. I've used EVGA power supplies now in all of my personal builds since 2011 or 12. And I've never had one fail on me. We've pushed the 1600 watt power supplies as far as they can possibly go when we do the overclocking stuff with Steve. I've never had one give me a problem. So I'm really leaning towards going with the EVGA stuff here, but G and GQ, and I know the GQ is a little bit higher spec. I think we'll go with the 750 GQ. I've got like 3 of them on my shelf back at the studio, but I have to buy it because we have to do the purchasing as a whole, right? I trust it. We're gonna go with it.
Hey, humble brag.
No, do you know how weird it is to buy something I have? So we're talking about storage here, and because of the budget, normally I would go with like a fast SSD and then a big hard drive. But because SATA drives have gotten so inexpensive because of NVMe's popularity, we're gonna go with a 1 terabyte NVMe so we could fit our OS, plenty of our favorite games on there. And then we'll go with a large, like 2 terabyte, 2.5 inch SATA, so we have no spinning drives at all. We're gonna go with the $199 860 QVO from Samsung, that's a 2 terabyte. And then we're gonna get the 1 terabyte 970 Evo Plus, which is an NVMe drive, not Gen 4, but still extremely fast, even under Gen 3, for $189. We get 10 off that, making it $179. So after that, we need to pick case and probably a cooler, and then see how far off I am. I have a feeling we went over. And if that's the case, then I have to do adjustments because Microcenter is like, here's your budget, don't go over. Just like your mom would say.
Yeah, because you're allowing
Or your wife would say. Microcenter is now a distributor for Lee & Lee, and they've got a lot of Lee & Lee cases here. I kind of like this guy here, the Landcool 2. So we've got a white one and we've got a black one here. So we've got case lighting on the front, tempered glass on the side. We had to do our due diligence though and at least look around real quick. So here's obviously the PCO 11 Dynamic, which was an extremely popular case designed by Der Bauer and Lee & Lee together. But 134 bucks, and although it's really pretty, it comes with no fans at all in it. So you've got to consider that. Even if you buy cheap fans, you're paying 10, 15 bucks a fan. So if you want to put one or some on the top and on the front, well, you can't put any in the front. So if you want to put it on the side or even the bottom, unless you're water cooling, I wouldn't go with this case. I don't like the closed off front. We got the Thermaltake Level 20, which has fans on the front. I have no idea how good the cooling is on this. I'm sure we could ask Steve and he would tell us it's probably garbage because it's so closed off right here. Yeah, I'm not liking what I'm seeing here from Thermaltake. We've got, of course, Coolermaster. Aesthetically, I like the Lee & Lee better at the same price. Actually, that's $5 more. I think the Lee & Lee is gonna be our winner. Now let's just hope they have it. So we decided on the Lee & Lee Landcool 2 tempered glass EATX full tower computer case. It's got its own case lighting for the front. We don't need RGB fans or anything to illuminate it. So let's go ahead and take a look at the AIOs. All right, so we decided on the H100i Pro, 129, you said?
Yep.
129. So we're gonna go ahead and let Malachi add this all to the cart. Let's see how badly I failed at this. Disclaimer, we did not include an OS in this yet. I wanna see where we are. If I include an OS, people are always mad, like, you can get an OS other ways, you know. You can get super cheap keys at supercheapkeys.net or whatever. And then if I don't include it, people get mad that I didn't include it. So if you don't want to include it, give yourself an extra $100. If you want to include it, take $100 away. It's not hard, guys. Oh, we went way over, holy crap. Take the OS off, $218 over, or $20.58 if you don't have to pay tax. All right, so now's where we have to start adjusting stuff here.
Back off on the 2 terabyte.
No, Jay, we have SSDs at home.
Okay, we're at $1958.91 before tax. Or if you have a hard budget limit of $110 or of $2,000, then $110 over. This is actually a pretty good thing because this is the part most people have a problem with is like, okay, I've got to save. Like you've got cash, right? That's all I have to spend and I've got to cut and save. So in terms of like where it makes sense to sacrifice, like we kind of discussed maybe going with a lower tier graphics card, maybe still a 2080 Super, but maybe with a card that's like not binned as well, right? So you saw some were $699, that's the cheapest you're gonna get. It's easier to cut some costs here on like, let's say the cooler and change this out later for much cheaper cost than going like, okay, I'm stuck with a graphics card that doesn't overclock very well, or it's just, yeah, I'd much rather stick with the performance we have with the card and change our cooler later than trying to change our card later. That's a lot harder. We also decided, like I said, we are keeping the 1 terabyte NVMe, but we're going down to a 1 terabyte 2.5-inch SSD for our mass storage rather than, well, additional storage, I should say, rather than trying to stick with a 2 terabyte, so we save some money there. So I'm really kind of thinking the cooler and potentially the motherboard, because I grabbed the Elite, but we still have the one below this, which gives us the same chipset. It still has an active chipset cooler, and it was like $40 cheaper as well. The funny thing is, this is the very first motherboard Malachi was like, hey, have you thought about the, so it's almost like the salesman no thing too, right?
So the board is 119.
Okay.
Your total after tax is 2013.
2013. Where can we save 13 bucks? Power supply? All right, let me go switch to power supply. Ask somebody for $2 in the store.
Here we go, we can do that. There's $2.
We
Now
did
we're
it.
Under 2,000.
We did it. No, we're still 98 cents over.
You know what, here's the 3. You can keep the 2 cents over.
Performance-wise, at the end of the day while we're gaming, nothing changed. We just had to make up almost $300, and I'm kind of surprised that we did it. Okay, now we need to pay for it and we need to build it. We talked about in the past, Microcenter does have a build service here where depending on the components you pick and how complicated the build is, it can scale up. You guys can do everything from AIO cooler installs, right, starting at what, $249 you said?
Yep, $249.
All the way up to custom loop, open loop stuff. And that's obviously going to be like custom based on what you pick and the components and all that sort of stuff. So you've seen the crazy water-cooled stuff that they've been doing here with some of their pre-built systems that we've shown on our channel. And obviously you would kind of need to get a quote based on that. All right, so we're ready to go build this now. So I just want to say once again, a huge thank you to Malachi for walking around with us. He knows a lot of stuff. So if you guys are coming into Microcenter, ask for him, Malachi Bryson. So it'll help him out a lot, I guarantee it. Okay, so we're in the belly of the beast. This is where all the builds take place. Not just builds though, obviously PC repair. So these are some customer units here where their PCs are acting weird, so they bring them here for service. Here's one of the dynamic builds that we've kind of shown on this channel before where they build it here. So each technician hey, I fixed it. We're gonna be building over here though. They put me on the end, I guess, which is fine. So I just kind of stuck all my parts up here. And I'm technician for a day. So I'm just gonna build it and I'll let Phil film it however he wants to. And that's why you actually pay the professionals to build it and not me. So, I mean, although I am building this myself, like I said, the whole point of this is to kind of showcase their build services, and they've got a bunch of different prices depending on what you need. And it starts at $149 and goes, I can't even open this knife. It starts, don't let me build your PCs, guys. So it starts at $149 and goes up all the way to super high-end custom rigid tubed builds, depending on what you want. Then you can do like a la carte add-ons, everything from building the system to installing the OS and getting all the drivers installed and all that sort of stuff. So if you're a beginner and you're just not comfortable trying it yourself, this is an option to you. Okay, it's built. And we did not test any of our parts. And normally when you flip on the power supply, if you have a motherboard that has RGB lighting on it, if it lights up and it's off mode, then you know, at least you have power getting there. But we have, again, the UD board, which doesn't have any of that. We also didn't plug in, and you might have seen it in the B-roll, I don't know, may not have shown up. We did not plug in the addressable header that comes with this case because this motherboard does not have an addressable RGB header. It has a standard non-digital RGB. And then you could see on the PCB where there's actually, where they would be prongs for addressable if you were gonna have it on this board, but they didn't put them. But that's okay because it has power going to its own RGB controller. You just change the modes right here if you care about that. But the question is it going to even post? Okay, well, if fans are turning, that's a good sign. So Ryzen likes to do a few boot loops before it ever actually initializes the train's memory and all that stuff. So let's see if we actually get an image. I think it's gonna be hooked up to that monitor right there, but you know. Might also have to do a clear CMOS, which sometimes you have to do in the first boot, which is strange, but. There it goes. See, it had 4 restarts before it posted. And I left this as one cut because of the fact that I wanted to show like new builders, like don't freak out, because boot looping or you know, cycling like that can sometimes be a problem. First time Ryzen boots with a new CPU and a new motherboard, new memory do this. So even if I did a clear CMOS right now, we'd only do one restart. But it's telling us reboot and select proper boot device because we have hard drives hooked up to the SATA port or SATA controller and there is no OS on there. So I just want to make sure we can get into our BIOS. But you'll see now we'll just get one good clean post. It's already active on the BGA. And then we should be going into BIOS here. There we go. Hey, what do you know? I built a computer. So we'll ask these guys, did I take like 3 times longer than you guys would or what? A little bit, yeah. They could have done a water-cooled, like soft tube build probably in the same amount of time. I'm my own boss, so I can take all the time I want, so. Anyway, one thing I want to point out though with the build services we talked about earlier is that if you have a tier 1 or a tier 2 assembly and you check it in before 5 p.m., then it's usually a same day guaranteed pickup by closing. So just want to put that out there. So once again, a huge thank you to Microcenter for bringing us out here and letting us kind of do part 2 of when we did our online shopping, where we told you things to think about when you're buying your system, compatibilities, where to spend money, where to save money. We kind of got to do it now in a brick and mortar, which as you saw was a lot harder than I expected because I went like $220 over budget and then we had to adjust, which really made for a realistic scenario there. So here it is. We'll take it back to the studio. Maybe we'll do some videos with this and benchmark this system. If you guys want us to benchmark it so you can see what, you know, roughly a $2,000 system gets you, then make sure you hit that like and comment down below. Also too, if you would make changes to the system, if you think we went completely wrong, like a lot of people are probably gonna say, Jay, why didn't you get a 9700K? Because you could have got one for the same price, which would be better for just a gaming build. I have a hard time right now spending my money with Intel. I don't feel like they've earned my money right now. So with the more rounded 8-core system like this is from AMD, 8 cores, 16 threads, you're not gonna notice the gaming performance difference, and you have the ability to do more multitasking threads, or tasks, multi-threaded tasks if you want with this particular system. But if you'd make changes, put it down below. Thanks for watching, guys, and as always, we'll see you in the next one. And I like this case. I think I'm gonna do a review of it. What's it called? I forgot. The Land Cool 2. Yeah.